Mr. Lawrence's 8th grade algebra and pre-algebra students. This is your last video for OAA review. I'm going to go over a couple things. I noticed my honors kids were having some trouble with the Pythagorean theorem. We've got two problems here. Now, it is very important that when you do the Pythagorean theorem, if you're given a triangle or you draw a triangle, to identify the right angle and then find the side directly across from it. The side directly across from the right angle is always side C. I'll say that again. The side across from the right angle, it's called the hypotenuse. It's always side C. Many of you are sticking smaller values in for the hypotenuse and getting larger values out. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, you have to plug in the largest side. If we don't know the largest side, you keep it a variable. So A and B don't matter. So I'm going to write 5 squared plus 12 squared. That'll equal x squared. But over here on this red one, which is a separate problem, I'll write x squared plus 24 squared, and that'll equal 25 squared. Now, some of you are breaking my heart here. Some of you seem to think that 5 squared plus 12 squared is 17 squared. You know that's not true. You know the order of operations. You know you have to do exponents before you can do addition. Please do not try to add unlike bases. 5 squared is 25. 12 squared is 144. I guarantee you that is not the same as 17 to the second power. 17 to the second power is 289. This is only 169. It equals x squared equals x squared. Have I solved for x? No, I've solved for x squared. I need to solve for x. I take the square root of each side, or the rad in this case for the algebra kids, and it'll get 13. Okay, x has to be 13. All right, coming over here, I'm going to do x squared. Oh, I have a mental blank. I know 625, I think. Oh, I'm stuck. Hold on a second. Let me cheat. Okay, 576 is 24 squared, and this is 625. Now I have to get x squared alone first of all, so I'm going to subtract 576 from each side. Okay, when I do that, I'm going to get x squared. And let's see here, going to do a lot of borrowing. Take it down 25. I think I'm going to get like 49. Is that right? It doesn't feel right, but I think it is. Let me check. 625. Yes, it is 49. Good. Take the square root of each side, or the rad, and then x is going to equal 7. So that's 7. Does my answer make sense? Well, my hypotenuse is longer. Oops. My hypotenuse is longer than both the other sides. That's a good thing. Okay, so sorry about that. I had a small technical malfunction, but I think I'm back and running. So my answers do appear to make sense. Now, sometimes it's a Pythagorean theorem problem when you can't see it. And I know, please don't do this. You're going to read this. A plane flies 50 miles due north. It turns, oh, I left a T out of there. Let me get a T in there. It turns 90 degrees and flies due east for 80 miles. Okay, this plane, how far is it from its starting point? It is not 130 miles. If you add 50 plus 80, you are not thinking. Please draw a picture. Please take the 10 seconds it takes to draw the picture. We know that it goes 50 miles this way, and we know it goes 80 miles that way. Ooh, 90-degree angle, and I'm looking for this distance here. It's a Pythagorean theorem problem. Okay, my hypotenuse is always across from the right angle. I don't know that distance. That's x. So I do 50 squared plus 80 squared, and that'll equal x squared. Please do not put 130 on. Please don't just add. Think about it. Draw the picture. Take the few seconds it takes to get it right. You guys are too smart. And you should realize now that math isn't just about knowing the answer ahead of time. Very few people know the answer ahead of time. And you know what? I don't think any of my students do know the answer ahead of time. All right, I'm just going to do this just because it's easier for me to add. It looks like 8,900, excuse me. Did I do that right? Yeah, that looks good. And now I'll take the square root of each side. And when I do that, I'm going to get approximately, what is it, 8,900? I'm going to get x to be approximately 94.34 miles. Okay? Because the shortest distance is a straight line. It's not 130 miles. It has traveled 130 miles, but I'm not asking that. From here to here, if I wanted to get back to the starting point the quickest way I could, I would travel this way. I wouldn't turn around, go back, and then retrace my steps. I'm not looking for something that's lost. Okay, so it's a Pythagorean theorem problem where you had to look for the right triangle. Do that tomorrow. Look for right triangles. All right, let's talk about solving some inequalities here because I think some of you are rusty on it. On this first one, remember, we're going to listen to Saddam. Okay. I know I have to get x alone. I know I have a 5 attached by addition because the 5 is positive. The 3 is attached by division. And so Saddam tells me to get rid of the addition first. So I will get rid of the addition. And I'll have negative x over 3 greater than or equal to 4. All right, now I'm going to multiply to get rid of the 3. And I'm actually going to multiply by negative 3 over 1 to get rid of the negative at the same time. What's that? So I'm going to multiply by a negative. Whoop, 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 whoop. Alarm should be going off in your head. Danger, Will Robinson. The negative 3's will cancel. I'll get x. On the right-hand side, I'll get negative 12. But because I multiplied by a negative 3, the greater than or equal to will turn into a less than or equal to. Remember, the inequality needs to flip. On a number line, that would look like this. All right, I have negative 12. It's going to be a closed circle because negative 12 does make this true. Give me another number that makes that true. Does negative 10 make it true? I'm sorry, negative 20? If it does, I'll shade towards negative 20. Or does 0 make it true? Well, 0 is less than negative. No, that's not true. Negative 20 is less. Yes, it is. So there we go. All right, I'll shade that way and have my point colored in there. All right, over here on this one, another inequality. This time I'm going to subtract 8 from each side. Why? Because I'm trying to get x alone, and Saddam tells me to do addition before I undo multiplication. I'm going to get a negative 2 here, get a 2x, and then I'm going to divide by 2. Did I divide by a negative? No, I did not, even though I wrote that there for a second. Since I did not divide by a negative, I am not going to flip my inequality. Now, if any of you have ever learned you just shade the way the inequality is pointing, please forget that. It is not true. I'm going to show negative 1. Okay, it's not equal to, so I'm going to put an open circle. And I'm going to shade. Well, let me see. I need a number bigger than negative 1. How about 5? And a number smaller than negative 1, negative 10. And now I'll see which one gives me a true statement. Well, I think 5 is greater than negative 1. So I will shade towards the 5. And I know negative 10 is not greater than negative 1. And there you go. And there's your shading. And that's it. Simple stuff. You guys should ace that tomorrow. All right, the distance formula. A lot of you are having problems with the distance formula. Pre-algebra kids, you can watch and do this, but remember, pre-algebra kids, I told you if you didn't know the distance formula, which is on the review sheet, but you weren't sure how to use it, you could plot the 2 points on a graph and then use the Pythagorean theorem. What's that? You can plot the points on the graph and use the Pythagorean theorem? Oh my goodness, what a crazy idea. Let me get a graph up here. And let me see, what are my 2 points that I need to plot? I need to plot 5, 8. And so I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm supposed to go 5, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. Let me put the origin in there, x-axis and y-axis. And the other point is 12, 10. Now 12, 10 is going to go a little bit further, and it's going to go all the way up here. Right? Now I'm interested in this distance. Right? Well, I can figure out how long I went. Do it in a different color here. Okay, well, I know that I went 1, 2, and let's see, from the green point, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is 7. And then I went up 1, 2. So I'm looking for x. I can use the Pythagorean theorem. I will leave you to do that. I'll do it using the distance formula and see if you get the right answer. All right, to use the distance formula, you have to be careful. A lot of you made mistakes with this. You have to first identify x and y, and then x and y. Now I'm going to subtract my x's. So I can do 12 minus 5, and I'll square it. And I will do 10 minus 8 and square it. Okay? So 12 minus 5 is 7. 7 squared is 49. All right, notice we had a 7 right here, didn't we? 10 minus 8 is 2. 2 squared is 4. Hey, we had a 2 right there. Coincidence? I think not. So this becomes the square root of 53. And to estimate that, I know it's going to be a little bit more than 7. Probably about 7.3, but I'll take the square root of 53 on my calculator. And I got 7.28, so it's approximately 7.28. My estimation of 7.3 was pretty close. All right, if I did the Pythagorean theorem, you should have gotten about 7.28 or 7.3, depending where you round it. My right angle's here. I find the hypotenuse. 2 squared plus 7 squared equals x squared. All right, so that is the distance formula. Now the midpoint formula. This is simple. Okay, average. To average, you add up and divide by how many there are. How many x's are there? There's 2. One of the x's is 5 and the other x is 12. So I'm going to go 5 plus 12 and divide by 2. Well, 5 plus 12 is 17. Half of 17 is 8.5. That is not difficult. You should not be getting this wrong, algebra students. This is too simple. All right. My y's. I have 2 y's. I have 8 and 10. So I'm going to do 8 plus 10. Divide by 2. 8 and 10 is 18. Divide by 2 is 9. The center, the midpoint of this line segment occurs at 8.5, 9. Let's go up to the graph and see if it does in fact. Let's see. 8.5, 9 is where I think it's going to occur. So there's 10, 9, 8.5 would be along this line right here. And I'm going to make it nice and thin because otherwise it kind of distorts things. There we go. So there's 8.5 approximately. I'll try to get it on there as exact I can. All right. And now I have to do 9. And 9 would be right here. And let me not do that, but do this. Make it nice and thin. And let's see, let's get it so it's right on the 9 line. And there you go. There is where the place is intersect, the middle of the point. Look at that, middle of the segment. That's the midpoint right there. That is the midpoint. It's simple. You just average the x's. You add them up, divide by 2. You average the y's, add them up, and divide by 2. That's it. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, 8.5, 9. All right, I don't think I have anything else I want to go over. I hope you get a good night's sleep tonight, get some good rest, and kick some serious butt on this test. You guys should blow this thing out of the water. All right, Mr. Lawrence signing off. Good night, everybody.